Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County. I'm Laura Anderson, a member of the worship team. Reverend Dan is off today, and Dennis Shaw will share his wisdom with us. Our progressive, welcoming, inclusive, and judgment-free congregation is a liberal religious community of diverse and free-thinking individuals. UUFCC is a spiritual community where reason and social justice matter. As people who learn, love, share, and serve together, we welcome all into our sacred community. We begin our service each week by singing an invitation to gather together, even as we are scattered in many places. Let's sing Enter, Rejoice, and zoom in.
Enter, rejoice, and zoom in. Enter, rejoice, and zoom in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and zoom in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and zoom in.
Unitarian Universalists all over the world light the chalice at the beginning of gatherings. When we gather, we light this beautiful stained glass chalice here in the sanctuary, and we light this other chalice. When we meditate, I often gaze at those two flames and know that I am in the right place with the right people at the right time. I miss you here today, but I'm glad we're together in the Zoom universe. I will light our chalices here, and you can light your own chalice if you wish. I will say the affirmation slowly so that if you don't know the words, you can say it with me. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. Our opening words this morning are from Heidi Cottam. Heidi is my friend and a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ogden. She is constantly teaching me how to be a better person. This faith. Let us be a faith that gathers, reaching for one another through the walls of hate others build, through the cages of ignorance and arrogance, through the fear that burns city streets. Let us be a faith that sees a vision of a better world, more compassionate, more just, more holy, and with more love. There is a faith that binds up the broken, cauterizes battle wounds with the balm of peace, sings longer and louder than the trumpets of war. Let us be that faith too. Let us be the ones who do not tread lightly in this world, but light it up with our love.
I use those too.
Who hold up the mirror of worth and dignity, who are the sanctuary others seek. But first, let us be a faith that worships together, here, this morning, in this space, at this moment. Let us be a faith. Do we have any new folks with us this morning? We're very happy to have us old folks here too, but if you're new or visiting, say hi to us in the chat. You can use the chat feature, tell us your name, maybe where you're from, why you joined us this morning. And even though it's technology, people are kind of friendly on chat, so somebody will be nice to you back. And while we're doing that, we're going to listen to the choir's new song of Lean on Me.
Sometimes in our lives we are
was great. You may know that this is the last week of the annual pledge drive, the time when we all commit to financially support the fellowship for the next year. Today, Debbie Conrad is going to tell us a little bit about herself and why she supports the UUFCC. Maybe Debbie's not with us this morning. Oh, there's Debbie.
I forgot. I'm just going on and on and on. It was very nice what I was saying. I was saying lean on me is perfect for, how I feel about all of you. I really knew nothing about Unitarian Universalists when we moved down here from Wisconsin permanently in 2015, but I was looking for a community since we knew no one in the area. I grew up Episcopalian and I missed the camaraderie, but did not share the teachings of the church. My husband, Ed, suggested I try a UU fellowship. And when I saw an ad in the newspaper for Art on the Wall, I decided that would be a good time to check it out. When we arrived, a car pulled up beside us in the parking lot, and it just happened to be Carolyn Keller, who I've now become very close friends with. The rest is history, as they say. She was so welcoming and introduced us to other members of the fellowship. And that's when I decided to come to the next Sunday service, and I've never looked back. And I do miss seeing all of you in person, and especially the hugs. Before I even stepped foot in the door of the church, the grounds welcome me with a smile. Once inside, I feel like I'm home. After becoming a member, I joined the Caring, Hospitality, and Patient Advocate Committee, which helped me to meet even more wonderful people who have become good friends. The committee reaches out to those in need, and I'm happy to be a part of that. I also joined the Art Committee, which provides the art on the wall, enjoyed by members and non-members alike. UUFCC has done so much for me personally, and our outreach to the general community is phenomenal. Social justice and all the other committees are so dedicated to helping others that I can't imagine being a member of any other church. This congregation it just means a lot to me. I can't stress that enough. We have to keep strong and we all have to keep strong and healthy and work together. Please be as generous as you can to help us continue the awesome work we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome. I'll mute now.
And thank you to Jerry and Alan and all of you who are working on the stewardship for us. Here is our umbrella gauge, rain gauge. Well, it looks like we're making good progress, but we aren't quite there yet. Thanks to everyone who's turned in their pledge. If you haven't already, please do so soon so we can better determine our budget for next year. When we meet in person, we have the chance to share the important things in our lives with each other through the book of life. In virtual life, we do that in the chat area. Please hold Mary Lou Proudfoot Kennedy in your hearts as she heals and all others who are struggling at this time. We ask for continued patience, strength, and loving guidance for our leaders and fellowship as we work together to find the best path moving forward at this time. We will now spend a few minutes sharing our life's concerns. We've opened our hearts to each other and responded by supporting those in need and celebrating the happy. Let us silently reflect on the sacred connections we all have from whatever source is meaningful to you. We will return in 1 minute and then sing Spirit of Life. I should have said a new composition of Spirit of Life. That was beautiful. Thank you. One more pitch about money. Even if we aren't meeting in person, the fellowship still has bills to pay and is still very much functioning. It is time for collecting the offering. You can make donations by mail, by auto payment through your bank. You can give electronically using Venmo on your smartphone. And now let's hear from Dennis.
Good morning. First, I'd like to thank Laura Anderson for serving as the worship associate. She agreed to take on the bulk of this service so I could focus on what I was going to say. I'd also like to thank the worship committee for asking me to do this. I actually had quite a good time putting these thoughts and memories down on paper. When I was a child, my family prayed prior to the supper meal. Dad would say grace on Sundays, and then it was older brother Bill's turn on Monday. And then I prayed on Tuesday. Brother Bobby covered Wednesday, and the youngest two, Jimmy and Tommy, were assigned Thursday and Friday, respectively. Oddly, Saturday, perhaps in the keeping with the casualness of the meal, was graceless. However, this explanation doesn't really make sense to me because there were 7 of us counting Mom. Why didn't she say grace on Saturdays? I finally dismissed the question by reasoning that Mom had already done enough just getting the food on the table. Actually, saying grace, with the exception of my father's eloquent Sunday blessing, was a simple, common, and very easy expectation. Even 3-year-old Tommy could recite, "God is great, God is good. Let us thank him for our food. By his hands all are fed. Give us, Lord, our daily bread. Amen." I was quite a pious child, and by age 12 decided to challenge the meaninglessness of our pre-meal recitations. It was a memorable Tuesday when instead of praying our too familiar slurred prayer at lightning speed, I recited a very reverent rendition of Mary Had a Little Lamb. By the time I got to it, followed her to school one day, I was ordered to my room without supper. My father had completely missed my point, despite the fact that my brothers and mother found my prayer hilarious. By bedtime, I was really hungry and praying in earnest for forgiveness and at least a little snack. As expected, my mother answered my prayers. My contrition took the form of a very sincere repetition of our traditional bedtime prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. That night, I put special emphasis on, and God bless Mommy. While our Unitarian Universalist services contain far fewer ritualistic recitations when compared to a high mass or even the formal services of the Calvinistic Presbyterian Church of my childhood, we do have traditional, meaning-filled liturgies and songs that perhaps pale because of their regularity. This leads me to the question, are we missing the rich truth, value, and meaning of our traditional unison recitations and songs? And is our worship diminished due to their familiarity? Each Sunday morning, as part of our chalice lighting ceremony, we state an affirmation. This was written by James Blake. Love is the spirit of our fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. This morning, I'm going to focus on just one phrase of our chalice lighting affirmation, and service is our law. First, I will explore what I mean when I recite these familiar words, and then offer examples of how UUFCC, even during this year of COVID isolation, brings them to life. Finally, I will explore various motivations for service. In order to begin my exploration of the phrase, service is our law, I made a visit to my old reference friend, Webster's Collegiate Dictionary of the English Language. There were 15 definitions listed for service. Of course, several of the definitions, like dealing with animal husbandry, the military, or tea services, were immediately eliminated. Other definitions, which could be related to religion or at least our fellowship, were considered. For example, we do have the services of a professional minister, a director of music, a part-time administrator, and a new technological wizard. We are currently participating in a religious service, even if it's being broadcast via the internet. Our building and grounds, even when we are not present, need servicing. The grass needs cut. Sometimes the fluorescent tubes need replaced. And once in a while, the building needs cleaned. When a toilet won't flush or the dishwasher won't heat, we rely on the services of repair folks. But to seek truth and love followed by call the electrician is nonsense. Although this line of thinking stimulated the thought, when was the last time that anyone changed the air conditioning filters? When I read the two following definitions of service from Webster, I immediately knew that I had found meanings that I could relate to my theme. Number one, service, the useful labor without pay. And two, contributions to the welfare of others. Yes, useful labor without pay that contributes to the welfare of others is compatible with our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and our useful work, with or without pay, that contributes to the welfare of others is our law. Next, I considered what we mean that service is our law. A second trip to my dictionary provided 16 definitions for the word law. The first fit so perfectly that I didn't bother with the remainders. According to Webster, law means a custom or rule of conduct which a community considers binding upon its members, which is enforced by compelling authority. I reasoned that since we're governmentally autonomous, the compelling authority that demands service is ourselves. Therefore, each week when we affirm that service is our law, we are actually saying that we believe that useful labor that contributes to the welfare of others is required in order to live our principles, honor our historical legacy, and ensure the health and future of our beloved liberal faith. Since service is our law, it is only reasonable to ask what qualifies as service. How do we comply with our law, even during a pandemic? First of all, I consider just showing up as service. If you didn't come and participate, UUFCC wouldn't exist. Can you imagine where we would be during this time when we can't be together in person if we didn't have Zoom and the folks who make it work? The idea of not being able to see and hear you at least once a week is almost unimaginable and very depressing. Another obvious way we can serve is through our numerous committees. These serve as the lifeblood of our sacred community. And while in some ways our committee work has been diminished by COVID, most of it continued in some form. I anticipate that once enough of us are vaccinated, that we will more than make up for any lost time. Think about how many folks have benefited through the educational services and projects which have been generated by the racial, immigration, social justice, and climate action committees. Think about how many times we have helped folks in crisis with over $20,000 that you have provided through our second helpings. And I want to add to that, that through Harry Chapin, $1 that is contributed is worth $7 in actual buying food purchases. So that means that our little fellowship has contributed $140,000 towards the welfare of other people who are hungry. Now, think about that huge brush pile that is created each year, including this one, as the ground crews try to keep the encroaching jungle at bay. Consider how many thousands of works of art have been displayed on our sanctuary walls over the years, and how many more will be on display thanks to the art committee. Never underestimate the contributions provided by the ongoing work of the worship committee, and with the amazing services of Linda Himes and the choir under the direction of Jim Boyle. Their service has been essential to the creation of meaningful worship. Think about the hours of labor invested to create virtual auction fundraisers or figuring out new technologies that have kept us together during this horrible pandemic. I have received numerous cards and calls this past year from members of the Caring and Hospitality Committee as I struggled with health issues and depression. I know from past experience how much time, energy, and talent that our trustees and board officers invest. I am amazed at their accomplishments, especially during this challenging year. Our annual pledge drives don't just happen. They are carefully planned and executed acts of service. This year is not an exception. And since this is the last official Sunday of our annual operating fund drive, Singing in the Rain, I want to really stress that your financial gifts to this fellowship are most definitely essential acts of service. So, if you have not yet sent in your pledge for the 21-22 fiscal year, please do it right away. There are so many ways to serve UUFCC. All you have to do is visit our website or read the weekly updates or the monthly newsletters, which, of course, are all created by acts of service. Yes, at UUFCC, service is our law. But what motivates our service? I have come to understand that motivation for service can vary and change based on the needs of the person and the challenges presented by the task, and obviously, the state of the world that we live in. For example, my motivation for working on the grounds crew is fueled by the satisfaction I receive just playing in the dirt. I served on the board of trustees for many years because I have leadership and organization skills, which I acquired during my long career building services for children with developmental disabilities and their families. When I retired, the opportunities to solve communal problems, create and work towards common goals evaporated. I missed the power, the comradeship, the creativity, and the sense of pride that is inherent in a leadership role. My tenure on UUFCC's board restored those feelings of worth and value, for which I am very, very grateful. During this time of COVID isolation, I volunteered to lead a Zoom chalice circle. There are currently 4 chalice circle groups. This service was motivated as a way to reduce loneliness and boredom and build deeper relationships. The fact that through this service, I have learned about the lives of 7 precious friends is a real blessing. Sometimes I serve simply because there is a need that is not being met. For example, several years ago, because of a budget shortfall, the board eliminated the services of our paid janitor. So a small group of us volunteered to clean the fellowship. I honestly believe that my grandma Shaw, despite the fact that she died in 1982, motivated me to take on that task. She instilled in me the sacrilegious notion that cleanliness is equal to godliness, and the job simply needed done. It is extremely important to consider what motivates our service, because clearly not all acts of service are grounded in love. Service can be patronizing and condescending. History is filled with the service of do-gooders that have literally destroyed indigenous people and their cultures. Their actions were based in notions of superiority and idolatry. Beware of missionary zeal. Early in my career, when I was providing home-based early intervention for families with preschool children with significant disabilities, I committed an act of service that caused a young Black woman and her 2-year-old daughter significant emotional pain and potential harm. Her name was Ruth. She was a sharecropper and lived in what I considered unacceptable squalor. With the best of intentions and the significant support of my Unitarian Universalist church, I moved her from a rural tar-papered shack and her family into a fully furnished apartment in a new urban, federally funded housing project. I was so proud of myself and the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greensboro, North Carolina, that provided every item that she could possibly need to function in a proper home. On an early spring Saturday, the crew from the church delivered the furniture, made the beds, and filled all the cabinets and drawers. When we left Ruth and her child to explore and enjoy their well-equipped new home. On the following Monday, I hurried to visit Ruth with the intention of completing a full evaluation of her daughter in a clean, bright room without the intrusions of her numerous relatives and cockroaches. When I arrived, the apartment was empty and Ruth and her daughter were gone. By the time I arrived at the tar-papered homestead, I was boiling with self-righteous rage. I was met at the door by Ruth's younger sister, who informed me that Ruth was too ashamed to talk with me and no longer wanted the services that I had promised to provide. I responded with a cascade of questions. The sisters' curt and angry responses conveyed a terrifying story of threats and abuse delivered by Ruth's white neighbors. If her family had not intervened during an impromptu Saturday night housewarming, Ruth may have been physically harmed. I never saw Ruth or her family again. As I drove home, I sincerely prayed for forgiveness for my arrogance, stupidity, and self-righteous and condescending service. I will conclude my thoughts on service with another experience from my career. Much to my amazement, I realized that this story is 50 years old. I had the privilege of serving as an itinerant preschool teacher deep in the mountains of Western North Carolina. The community I served was called Spilcorn. With the direction and protection of my brilliant assistant and guide, Audrey, we hiked up and down winding mountain paths to offer medical and developmental services. Audrey's grandfather owned a small general store that served as the heart of the community, and any friend of Audrey was welcomed. Many of the families I eventually got to know and serve and love were so isolated that I was the first non-relative that the kids had ever met. Each day was an exciting adventure, and I really loved my work. The people of Spilcorn were proud and would not accept my services without repayment. So I was never surprised when I found the rear of my battered blue Volkswagen Squareback filled with garden-grown vegetables, jars of canned fruit, and venison steaks. Once I had established a strong and positive identity as the Homestart teacher, I began a very popular ritual of celebrating each child's birthday with a highly decorated birthday cake, which I purchased at a bakery near my home in Asheville. Quickly, every child learned that knowing and communicating the date of his or her birth was a very important thing to do. Orville was born in October. Each week, I visited him in a tiny, dilapidated trailer home. As the leaves began to change colors, he would remind me that his birthday was coming soon. I assured him I would not forget. Orville slept with his mother and two younger siblings in a trailer, and his significantly disabled parents shared a small loft supported by stilts and an attached tall lean-to with a rusty corrugated tin roof. A constantly burning fire pit was situated at the center of the lean-to's dirt floor and crowned with a big black cauldron. I often wondered what was cooking in that pot, but dared not ask, lest I be offered a sample. Finally, the long-awaited day arrived, and I hiked down a rocky dirt path carrying a boxed birthday cake, paper plates, and plastic utensils. I was greeted by 3 squealing children and was led to a makeshift table close to the bubbling pot. As I unboxed the cake and lit the 5 candles on the rose-covered delight, which was engraved with the words, "Happy Birthday, Orville," the children bounced with excitement. I lifted the cake and began an inspired rendition of "Happy Birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear." But before I could complete my crescendoed Orville, a chicken roosting on the rafter of the lean-to joined the celebration by pooping on the cake. I froze. But a second glance at Orville's sparkling eyes sent 2 fingers into reflexive motion, removing the offending excretion, which was immediately gobbled up by the dog. The song ended. The cake was sliced, and we all agreed that it was the most beautiful and delicious birthday cake ever devoured. Sometimes an act of service can be so joyous that you don't ask about your motivations. I will remember Orville and his birthday cake for the rest of my life, and will always be grateful for the many life-enriching adventures that were the results of the simplest acts of service in that beautiful community. I will close my reflections by asking you, to join me once again in the sacred words that we recited at the beginning of this service as we lit the chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. May it be so.
Amen. A woman, and blessed be. Dennis, thank you for sharing your personal story and also for being an inspiration for all that you do for us. We can follow your example even if we can't fill your shoes. Our closing words today are my reflection on Dennis's sermon. When a situation arises, when I'm in a meeting, a committee decides on some action, I ask myself these 3 questions. Is this something I can do? Usually the answer is yes. What is being asked isn't really that hard. And if I don't know all of the details of what to do, there are good people who are willing to help and support. So I'm not completely on my own here. I probably have the time. I am retired. Is it mine to do? This one is a little less straightforward. If I don't volunteer, I'm giving someone else an opportunity to contribute and to support their fellowship. For many years, my favorite saying was, "Not my problem." And I still like to say that sometimes, or at least think it. But more than that, is it my place to do this? Am I being pushy, arrogant? Maybe it's really not any of my business. Is it something I want to do? Honestly, there is very little I don't want to do. If I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't have engaged this far in the thought process. Usually it's personal with me. I want to support my friend who is engaged in doing something. If it is something that might help someone but isn't the most pleasant job, so what? I don't get a lot of opportunities to truly help someone. Sometimes I'm just bored and want something to do. We're almost done with this morning's service. I just wanted to remind you of a few things. Today at 3 o'clock, the Climate Action Team is showing the movie Seeds of Change. It will be on Zoom, and you can join using the universal link. If you're looking for the universal link, you can find it on the website, uufcc.org. And if you get the weekly update, it's in the email from Thursday. Jackie has it and is going to put it in the chat box as well. Stay here after the service is done. Jackie will put us in breakout rooms and we can spend a little time visiting with each other. I will extinguish our chalice and you can extinguish yours. We will sing Go Now in Peace, and then Dennis will share a benediction. And now we extinguish this chalice, but not the love, not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of us surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere. Everywhere you may go.
Dennis, do you have a benediction for us?
As we leave this service, may we be mindful that we are intersections in the pulsating, infinite, and finite, interdependent web of being that is in the constant process of recreation. May we live with the awareness of our inherent connections with others and the mindfulness that our acts of service create energy that flow along fragile threads, ultimately transforming the kaleidoscopic design of being. Go in peace. Amen.